One of the things that I always talk about is this concept of the phenomenal formula. And the phenomenal formula consists of three things. You know, today is raining outside. So I know for a fact, I heard a statistic one time that said about half the people will not show up to your funeral if it's just raining outside. Right? So I know for a fact right now, there's about at least half of the people that's in this room that should have showed up, but that didn't show up today. And so first, I want to congratulate everybody for still showing up under these circumstances. And the second thing is, let's give a warm round of applause to the men of faith, because they didn't have to put this on today. So we give them a round of applause. So I think that was a great introduction. So so again, my name is Terrell Jones, and I have the opportunity to be an author, a public speaker, and been doing it for about 10 years. But just because you've been doing something for the past 10 years don't mean that you've been serious for that amount of time, right? So one of the things that I want to say to the youth is, you know, now that you have an opportunity to be here, get serious. You know, this is not just a place to just feel good and, you know, just get some good advice and then just go back and continue doing the same thing that you've been doing. So a little quick background about myself. I'm from New York, and when I was back in New York, I lived a lifestyle that no child, no kid should have ever seen or lived. You know, I've seen everything from shootouts, fights, gang activity, prostitution, murder. I mean, right in front of my building, I've hit under cars before because of shootouts. Now, hopefully, that's nothing that you ever had to go through, or maybe some of the older folks here. You know, I know it was rough back in the 80s and 90s, but today, what I'm saying is that I decided to make some changes, and those changes that I made in my life allowed me to completely switch and change the trajectory of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do in life. So being in that environment, I had a cousin, and this cousin I looked up to as like an older brother, and he decided that he wanted to go to college one day. So I said, you know, there's no reason for me to just stay in this environment, so I decided I want to go to college too. So he went to Virginia Union. I said, well, let me leave the state too and try something different. So I ended up going to Virginia State University. And it was there that I was in college, but I still had the mindset and the mentality as if I was still in a project. So, you know, just to show you, how ignorant I was, I went there and I'm seeing groups of people that's all wearing the same color, all throwing up these signs. And I'm like, what is going on? What is this? They got gangs in college? But anybody know what that was that I was seeing on campus? Fraternities and sororities, right? So that just goes to show you my mindset when I first went into college. So fast forward, as I was going through that process, I started learning certain things about life. I started learning certain things about myself. And this is a leadership conference. So one of the things that I want you to take away is that in order for you to be able to lead other people, you got to be able to lead yourself. I'm going to say that again. If you want to lead other people, you have to be able to lead yourself first. Because once you're able to help yourself and lead yourself, then you're going to be able to move to the next step. So one of the things that I teach, whether I'm hired to speak at a school or whether I'm going to a nonprofit or organization, one of the things that I always talk about is this concept of the phenomenal formula. And the phenomenal formula consists of three things. One, strategy. Everything that you do needs to have a strategy to what you're doing. Don't just do a bunch of random things. So what does this look like in your life? This looks like, if you're in school, this looks like, don't just be doing random things. Understand that, okay, I'm in school, I know I have to do this work, or I have to plan out these days to write this paper, or to do my homework for this set amount of days so I can accomplish this result. If you're getting ready to graduate and you're getting ready to say you're going to college, be strategic. What college do you want to go to? What do you want to take up? Right? And once you start thinking ahead in the future, then you're going to start noticing, hey, okay, now I understand how I'm moving towards what I'm doing. Because I can guarantee you, a lot of people that surround you, they're probably not, or at least know me, a lot of my friends growing up, they were not strategic at all. They were just, the first thing, it was a concept that I used to talk about called chestnut checkers. And the difference between chestnut checkers, right? With checkers, you just do something just because you feel like it. Oh, I feel like waking up, so I'm gonna wake up today. Or I don't feel like waking up, so I'm not gonna wake up, right? I don't feel like going here, so I'm not gonna. So it's like a very impulsive mentality, and it's a very impulsive feeling. But when you start thinking more chess-like, that means you're being more strategic with your moves. You're not just doing things just because you're doing it. You're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this because you know it's going to lead to this result, right? So it's about thinking more strategic. So when you're a leader, you got to start thinking more strategic. You can't just be doing random things. You can't just be getting in trouble and just hanging with anybody, because that's going to have an effect down the road. So these are things that we all need to be thinking about right now. So that's the first S. Next, we're looking at being productive. And being productive is you actually being in the game. You actually getting things done, right? So is everybody familiar with Floyd Mayweather? You're familiar with Floyd Mayweather, right? So Floyd Mayweather, his last fight, he fought Conor McGregor. And in that fight, I remember watching an interview that he said, and he said, you know what, the whole time, Conor McGregor is talking trash, I knew he was going to try to come at me and try to take my head off. But he said, the one thing I know is that when he tries to do that, I talked about it with my dad, and we said that we're going to let him spend all his energy in about the first 5 rounds. Let him spend all his energy. And he said, after that, when I was in the actual fight, I let him do that, and then once it started getting to the later rounds, that's when I started to get him. And I watched that interview, and it was so powerful for me because it made me think like wow, like how strategic do you have to be to understand that all of everything that was leading up into that point was just to get him to want to come out and be so enraged and have that checkers-like mentality that he's not even thinking 6, 7, 8 rounds down the fight, right? So being productive is actually what are you doing in the moment to get things done and make progress. Okay, and then the third thing is make sure that you're preparing. Preparation is key. And maybe I should put this one before productivity, but preparation before everything is key. So there's one thing that you could do. You could have a strategy, but if you go straight from strategy, straight to trying to implement the thing that you want to do, you're going to miss some things. And you'll have to prepare yourself, whether that means physically, whether that means you have to eat something, whether that means that you have to get certain resources and pull on certain people so they can help you make it to that next place that you want to make it to. If you're looking at LeBron James, he has to prepare. He not only has to say, all right, this is how we're going to win the game. He not only has to be in the game and make the shots, but he also has to get in the gym and lift the weights. He also has to eat a certain way. He also has to make sure he surrounds himself with the right people. So all of that is part of preparation. So strategy, productivity, and preparation. So I wanted to preference that before getting to the leadership part, because that is really what's going to be the glue with everything else that you're going to learn throughout this conference, right? So make sure that you keep that in your mind. Now, when it comes to leadership, one of the things that I take as my own principle, and I take that seriously, and I want to impart that to you today, and I really hope that you take this down, is one thing. People support a movement when they feel included. That's the number one leadership principle that I can give you. People support a movement when they feel included. So taking it back to high school, I remember one of the first times, this is how, during the day, so I speak, but during the day, I work for cybersecurity. I do have a cybersecurity profession with the Navy. And I originally got into that all the way back in high school when I realized that I was excited, to write web pages and stuff like that. So while I'm in high school, I remember us having a group project. And this group project, it was 4 of us in it. And I remember us going through it, and I was sort of kind of leading the effort. But as we were going through, I remember that there was this one kid who wasn't really engaged in a project like that. He was just sort of in his own world, and this webpage that we had to build was about us putting what our favorite superhero is. So it was Batman. We all said, all right, we're gonna make a webpage based on Batman. So we saying what the coloring scheme is. We saying everything. Where we should put the pictures on the page. But I remember this one kid would always just sort of stay in the background. And he wasn't engaged, he wasn't helping at all. And so one of the other kids in the group said, hey, you wanna help us out on this? What do you think? What color should we use for the headline? What color should we use for this? What picture should we use? And as we started including him in the process, he started being more helpful, and the page came out way better than it would have came out just us 3 working together. So why do I tell you that? Because at the end of the day, being a leader is you want to make everybody on your team feel like they're one. You want to move as a unit. You know, the last gentleman here who was speaking, he just talked about, everybody being on the same page and on the unit. Doesn't matter, what the weather is outside. Everybody, this is, you all work as one, and it doesn't matter what environment, it doesn't matter where you at or what you're doing. So, remember that. Leadership principle. People support a movement when they feel included. I'm gonna leave, if you have questions, if I could do maybe 30 seconds to a minute. If everybody has any questions on just anything I said or just anything in general, I'll open the floor to anyone who has anything that they want to add.
You said people support a movement when they feel they're part of it.
Correct, correct.
How do you make people part of it?
Correct. So that's a great question. So making people part of the movement and just fast forward in different areas of my life, one of the things that anytime I ever felt like I wasn't part of something, it was because I felt like my ideas weren't being heard. Not necessarily, well, every time we in a project, you have to take my idea and you have to use it, but at least make me feel included, make me feel like I'm heard, right? So I would say, so at any point in time, if you're part of something, one, put yourself in the process, right? So you can see it win. Because anytime somebody has something